This story is titled, My Wife Believes Her Toxic Best Friend's Lies Over Me, Destroying Our Marriage. When the truth came out, she tried to reconcile, but it was too late. Hi everyone! Before we dive in, a quick favor. If you enjoy content like this, please hit the subscribe button. It's free, supports the channel, and make sure you never miss out on amazing videos. Alright, let's get started. So, I'm 35, living in Denver, and I just finalized my divorce from my wife Emma. We were together for 6 years, married for 2. Looking back, I feel like I should have seen this train wreck coming. Honestly, the warning signs were there from the start. But I kept ignoring them because, well, I loved her. Or at least, I thought I did. The cracks in our relationship had a name. Stacy, Emma's best friend. You ever meet someone and immediately know they're bad news? That was Stacy. She was loud, self-centered, and always had to be the center of attention. From the first time I met her, I felt like she was sizing me up, like she was looking for something to hold against me. But Emma was blind to it. She saw Stacy as her ride or die from college, someone who'd been there through thick and thin. I thought, fine, I'll tolerate her because she's important to Emma. But man, Stacy knew how to push buttons. Things really started going downhill during our wedding plan. I proposed to Emma after 3 years of dating. We were living together by then, and it just felt like the next step. She was ecstatic, and honestly, so was I. At first. Then Stacy started sticking her nose in. It started small. She didn't like our color scheme and said it was too basic. I let that slide because who cares what colors we picked? Then she made a fuss about the catering, saying we needed vegan options because half the guests would probably prefer that. There were maybe 2 vegans total. And she ended up demanding that she walk down the aisle in a special moment ahead of the bridesmaids. Yeah, you read that right. Stacy wanted her own walk down the aisle. Her reasoning? I've been there through every one of Emma's breakups, every hard moment in her life. This day is about celebrating the people who stood by her, not just the marriage. I thought it was a joke at first. Like, who seriously asks for that? But Emma just kind of nodded along. I could see her caving in real time. I tried to step in. I told Emma, look, this is our wedding, not a stage for Stacy to perform on. Your sister's already your maid of honor, and that's enough. Emma got defensive, saying I was making a big deal out of nothing. Stacy, meanwhile, acted like I'd personally insulted her entire existence. Wow, she said. I didn't realize your fiancé was so controlling. That stung. But instead of standing up for me, Emma folded. It's just one little thing, she told me later. If it makes her happy, what's the harm? So Stacy got her grand entrance. She strutted down the aisle like it was her wedding. I could feel my parents' side-eye from the front row, but I just gritted my teeth and smiled for the photos. I figured, once we're married, this kind of nonsense will stop. Stacy won't have as much of a say in our lives. Big mistake. Huge. After the wedding, Stacy didn't just fade into the background like I'd hoped. If anything, she became even more involved in our lives. Emma and I would be talking about weekend plans, and Stacy's name would pop up like clockwork. Oh, I already told Stacy she could join us, Emma would say. Or, Stacy thinks we should check out this restaurant instead. It was like we couldn't make a single decision without her input. I tried to bring it up to Emma, gently at first. I told her, look, I like that you have a close friend, but I feel like Stacy's a little too involved in our lives. Can we set some boundaries? Emma got defensive again. She's my best friend, she said. I can't just shut her out. You don't understand how much she's done for me. Maybe I didn't understand. I wasn't there for the college years or the breakups or whatever, but what I did understand was that Stacy didn't respect me or our marriage, and Emma was too wrapped up in their friendship to see it. I wanted to believe that Stacy wasn't intentionally trying to undermine me. Maybe she was just one of those people who didn't know how to take a step back. But deep down, I think I knew better. Stacy didn't like me, plain and simple. And the more she inserted herself into our lives, the more obvious it became. I don't know why I didn't put my foot down earlier. Maybe I thought it wasn't worth the fight. Or maybe I didn't want to risk pushing Emma away. But that was my mistake. By staying quiet, I let Stacy feel like she had the right to interfere in our marriage. And by the time I realized how deep her claws were, it was too late. About a year into our marriage, Emma and I had finally settled into a routine. Work, date nights, binging TV shows on weekends. Things weren't perfect, but they were good. Peaceful even. That was until Stacy showed up at our doorstep, sobbing like her entire world had fallen apart. It was a Friday evening. Emma and I were planning to make tacos and maybe watch a movie. I was halfway through chopping onions when the doorbell rang. Emma went to get it, and within seconds I heard Stacy's wailing. I poked my head around the corner, and there she was, clinging to Emma like a shipwreck survivor. She had a duffel bag slung over her shoulder, and mascara running down her face. "He left me," Stacy cried. "I can't do this alone." Emma led her inside, shooting me a look that said, "We'll talk later." I stood there, knife in hand, feeling like I'd just walked into the middle of a nightmare. Stacy plopped onto our couch, rambling about how her boyfriend of 2 years had dumped her out of nowhere. Emma sat next to her, holding her hand, nodding along sympathetically. I stayed in the kitchen, trying to focus on the tacos. But as Stacy's dramatic retelling went on, I couldn't help overhearing. Apparently, her boyfriend Jake had completely blindsided her, breaking up with her over text because he felt they weren't compatible. Stacy, of course, insisted that she'd been the perfect girlfriend and that Jake was just an emotionally unavailable jerk. "Do you have anywhere to stay tonight?" Emma asked her gently. Stacy sniffled, her eyes darting toward me in the kitchen before answering. I can't go home to my parents. They'll just say I told you so. And all my other friends are busy. I didn't know where else to go. I could see where this was headed, and I wasn't happy about it. Sure enough, Emma turned to me. "Would it be okay if Stacy stayed here for a few days? Just until she gets back on her feet?" What was I supposed to say? No, your best friend can't stay here even though she's clearly a mess? So I nodded, forcing a smile. Yeah, of course. At first, I tried to be patient. Stacy was heartbroken. I get it. Breakups suck. The first couple of days, I stayed out of her way, letting Emma handle her. But by the end of the week, it became clear that a few days was turning into who knows how long. Stacy wasn't just staying with us. She was taking over. The guest room, which Emma and I had carefully kept neat and organized, became a disaster zone. Clothes were everywhere. On the floor, on the bed, draped over the chair. Empty coffee cups and takeout containers piled up on the nightstand. It was like a teenager's room after a bad breakup. Except Stacy was 34. She practically lived in the living room, binge-watching reality shows at full volume and hogging the couch. Twice, I came home from work to find her sprawled out in her pajamas, eating snacks out of a family-sized chip bag while watching some dating show. She didn't even glance up when I walked in, just muttered, "Hey," between bites. The kitchen wasn't safe either. Stacy wasn't much of a cook, but that didn't stop her from using our pots and pans like she was auditioning for a cooking show. The problem was, she never cleaned up after herself. I'd wake up in the morning to find the sink overflowing with dirty dishes and random half-eaten meals left on the counter. I tried talking to Emma about it. "Look," I said one night, "I know Stacy's going through a lot, but she's treating this place like a hotel. It's not fair to us." Emma sighed, looking torn. "I know it's frustrating, but she doesn't have anywhere else to go. She just needs a little more time." "A little more time?" I repeated. "It's been 2 weeks. How much longer are we supposed to put up with this?" Emma hesitated. "I'll talk to her." But when she did, it didn't help. Stacy flipped the script, acting like she was the victim. "I'm sorry if my presence is such a burden," she said dramatically, tears welling up in her eyes. "I'll leave if that's what you want." Emma, of course, rushed to reassure her. No, it's not like that. We just want to make sure you're okay." It was infuriating. Stacy knew exactly how to manipulate Emma, and Emma fell for it every time. The final straw came about a month in. One Saturday morning, I went into the backyard to grab some tools for a DIY project I'd been working on. To my surprise, I found my power drill, saw, and several other tools scattered across the patio. Stacy was sitting on the grass with a pile of random wooden scraps, painting them bright neon colors. "What's this?" I asked, gesturing to the mess. She looked up, unbothered. "Oh, it's for my therapy. My counselor suggested doing something creative to process my emotion." I blinked at her. "You went through my tools without asking?" She shrugged. "I didn't think you'd mind." I was done. I walked back inside and found Emma in the kitchen. "She has to go," I said firmly. "I'm not asking anymore." Emma looked at me, surprised by my tone. "What happened?" "She's treating this house like her personal playground." "I'm done with it, Emma. I've been patient, but this isn't working. She needs to leave." Emma sighed, rubbing her temples. "Okay, I'll talk to her again." This time, I didn't leave it up to Emma. I sat down with both of them and laid it out. "Stacy, we've done our best to support you through this. But it's been a month. This isn't sustainable for us. You need to start looking for another place to stay." Stacy didn't take it well. She accused me of being heartless, of not understanding what she was going through. "You're kicking me out when I'm at my lowest?" she said, glaring at me. "Wow, what a great friend you are." I didn't let her guilt trip me. "I'm not kicking you out today, but you need to find somewhere else. We've given you plenty of time." Emma looked torn, but for once, she didn't side with Stacy. Within a week, Stacy was gone. She left in a huff, muttering something about how I'd always been controlling and how Emma deserved better. As she drove off, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time in weeks, our house felt like ours again. But even then, I knew this wasn't the last we'd hear from Stacy. The real Stacy's damage started on a random Saturday afternoon. Emma had gone out for her usual brunch with Stacy. I wasn't exactly thrilled about it, but I'd stopped commenting on their meetups months ago. What was the point? Stacy was going to be a part of Emma's life no matter what I said. I stayed home, figuring I'd use the quiet to catch up on errands. Nothing exciting, just groceries, laundry, and a bit of yard work. By the time Emma got back, I was in the kitchen unloading the groceries. I greeted her like I always did, but something felt off. She barely said a word, just mumbled a "hey" and went straight to the bedroom. I stood there for a second, holding a bag of apples, trying to figure out if I'd done something to piss her off. Maybe she was just tired? I shrugged it off and went back to putting things away. For the rest of the day, Emma was distant. Like, really distant. She avoided eye contact, answered my questions with one-word replies, and spent most of her time glued to her phone. I asked her a couple of times if something was wrong, but she just brushed me off with, "I'm fine." Clearly she wasn't. I figured maybe Stacy had unloaded some of her usual drama, and Emma just needed time to process. That night, though, things got weird. After dinner, she barely touched her plate and went to bed early. When I joined her later, she was curled up on the far edge of the bed, pretending to be asleep. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, wondering what the hell was going on. The next morning, I decided to push the issue. "Emma, seriously, what's going on? You've been acting weird since you got back from brunch." She hesitated for a moment, not looking at me. Then she said, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." "Okay," I said, feeling a knot form in my stomach. "What is it?" She finally turned to face me, her expression a mix of anger and hurt. "Were you with someone else yesterday?" I blinked at her, completely thrown off. "What? What are you talking about?" Her voice got sharper. "Stacy said she saw you in a parking lot. She said you were in your car, making out with some woman." For a second, I didn't even know how to respond. It was so out of left field that I almost laughed. But when I saw how serious Emma looked, the disbelief turned into frustration. "Emma, that's ridiculous. I wasn't with anyone. I was grocery shopping." "She described your car," Emma snapped. "She said you were wearing your brown jacket. She even knew the parking lot, by that little strip mall near Main Street." I felt like I was in a bad dream. "Yeah, because I was at that strip mall. That's where the grocery store is. I wasn't making out with anyone. I was buying milk and bread." Emma crossed her arms, glaring at me. "Then why would Stacy say she saw you?" That question pissed me off more than anything. Not, "Are you sure she's mistaken?" Or, "Could it be a mix-up?" Nope. Just, why would she lie? Like the idea of Stacy lying was somehow impossible. "I don't know, Emma," I said, my voice rising. "Why don't you ask her?" Because I didn't do anything wrong. But she wasn't listening. "I don't know what to believe," she muttered, shaking her head. "Stacy wouldn't lie about something like this." That hit me like a punch to the chest. She didn't know what to believe? After everything we'd been through, she couldn't trust me over Stacy? I stood up, pacing the room. "You've known me for 6 years. Do you really think I'd cheat on you? And in a parking lot of all places? Does that even sound like me?" Emma didn't answer. She just sat there, staring at her hands. "I need time to think," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. The next few days were hell. Emma barely spoke to me. She moved into the guest room, saying she needed space. Every time I tried to bring up the conversation, she shut me down. "I'm not ready to talk," she'd say. Or, "I need more time." Meanwhile, I was walking around in a fog of anger and disbelief. I couldn't stop thinking about Stacy. This was exactly the kind of chaos she thrived on. But what I couldn't wrap my head around was why. Why go to such extremes? Why lie about something so serious? Did she really hate me that much? At the same time, I couldn't ignore the bigger issue, Emma's reaction. The fact that she didn't even give me the benefit of the doubt said more about our marriage than Stacy's lies ever could. If she trusted Stacy's word over mine, what did that mean for us? A week later, Emma packed a bag and left. She didn't even tell me where she was going, just said she needed time to figure things out. I didn't fight her on it. At that point, I was too exhausted to argue. The next morning, I got a text from her. "I think it's best if we separate for now. I'll have my lawyer send over the paperwork." That was it. No discussion, no attempt to work things out, just a text and a lawyer. It was like our entire marriage had been swept aside because of one ridiculous story. I didn't even know how to process it. One part of me wanted to fight, to prove my innocence, to make Emma see reason. But another part of me was just done. If she was willing to throw everything away so easily, maybe I didn't want to save this marriage after all. In the weeks that followed, things got worse. Word spread about our separation, and Stacy made sure everyone knew her version of events. Mutual friends started acting weird around me, avoiding eye contact or making vague comments about working on myself. Even my own family started asking awkward questions like, is there any truth to what they're saying? It felt like I was living in a nightmare. Everywhere I turned, there was another reminder of how quickly people could turn on you. And through it all, Emma stayed silent. No calls, no texts, no attempts to reach out, just radio silence. At first, I was angry, angrier than I'd ever been in my life. But as the days turned into weeks, that anger started to fade. In its place was something colder, harder. If Emma didn't trust me enough to even have a conversation, then maybe I didn't need her in my life. I wasn't going to beg for someone who didn't believe in me. Let her have her time to think. Let her stay under Stacy's thumb. I was done fighting for a marriage, where I was always second place to her so-called best friend. If this was how it was going to end, then so be it. 2 months after Emma left, on one Thursday evening, something happened that I didn't see coming. I was minding my own business, scrolling through my phone while eating dinner, when I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It read, "Hi, this is Marissa. I know Stacy lied about you. Can we talk?" I stared at the screen for a moment, trying to figure out who the hell Marissa was. The name rang a faint bell. Something about a party Stacy and Emma dragged me to a couple of years ago. But why was she messaging me now? My first instinct was to ignore it, but something about the way she phrased it, "I know Stacy lied about you," made me curious. I replied, "What do you mean? What lie?" Her response came almost instantly. About the cheating. Stacy admitted she made it up. "I think you need to see the proof." The next day, I met Marissa at a small coffee shop downtown. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a table near the window and fidgeting with her phone. I sat down across from her, feeling a mix of curiosity and dread. "Thanks for meeting me," she said nervously. "I wasn't sure if you'd even want to talk." "Yeah, well, here I am," I said. "What's this about Stacy lying?" She pulled out her phone and opened a text conversation. "I've been friends with Stacy for a long time, but after this, I can't keep quiet anymore. You need to know what really happened." She handed me the phone, and I started reading. The messages between her and Stacy were jaw-dropping. "Stacy, OMG, Emma finally left him. She actually believed me, LOL. Marissa, what are you talking about?" "Stacy, I told her I saw him making out with some rando in his car. You should have seen her face. Priceless." Marissa, "Wait, are you serious? Why would you do that?" Stacy, "Because he's a controlling jerk, and she's too dumb to see it. I had to help her." I kept scrolling, my hands trembling with anger. It got worse. "Stacy, it's not like their marriage was gonna last anyway. Emma's so gullible. She'll believe anything I tell her." Marissa, "This is messed up, Stacy." Stacy, "Whatever. She's better off without him, and now I don't have to hear about her perfect marriage anymore." Ugh! I couldn't read any further. I handed the phone back to Marissa. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. "She really said all that?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Marissa nodded, looking genuinely upset. "Yeah, she bragged about it, like it was some kind of accomplishment. I didn't believe it at first, but when she started mocking Emma for being too naive, I realized how twisted it was." I sat there, trying to process what I'd just seen. Stacy hadn't just lied. She'd actively sabotaged my marriage and made fun of Emma in the process. She'd manipulated her best friend for no other reason than sheer entitlement and spite. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked finally. "Why not earlier?" Marissa looked down at her coffee. "I don't know. I guess I was scared. Stacy can be intense, but I couldn't keep quiet anymore. It's not fair to you, and it's not fair to Emma." I took screenshots of the messages and thanked Marissa for coming forward. On the drive home, I couldn't stop replaying the conversation in my head. I wasn't just angry, I was furious. Furious at Stacy for being such a manipulative, entitled piece of work. Furious at Emma for falling for it so easily. And furious at myself for letting Stacy get away with her crap for so long. But more than that, I felt validated. For months, I'd been walking around with this cloud over my head, wondering if I could have done something differently. Now I had proof that none of this was my fault. Stacy had set me up from the start, and Emma had played right into her hands. By the time I got home, my anger had simmered down into something colder. I wasn't going to lash out or throw accusations around. No, I was going to handle this the right way. First, I forwarded the screenshots to my lawyer with a quick note. "This is what really happened. Let me know how we can use it." Then I sat down and stared at my phone, debating whether to text Emma. Part of me didn't want to. What was the point? She'd already shown where her loyalty lay. But another part of me felt like she deserved to know the truth, even if it wouldn't change anything. After a few minutes, I typed out a message. "We need to talk. It's important." Her reply came quicker than I expected. "What do you want?" I kept it short. "I have proof that Stacy lied. Can we meet? You need to see this." There was a long pause before she replied, "Fine, tomorrow afternoon." "Where?" I suggested a park near her new apartment. She agreed, and that was that. I didn't want to win her back. I wasn't interested in that anymore. But I needed her to know the truth, if only to clear my name. Part of me wanted to just shove the screenshots in Emma's face and let her deal with it. But I knew I needed to keep my cool. The last thing I wanted was for her to think I was being dramatic or emotional about this. When Emma finally arrived, she looked hesitant, almost nervous. She was wearing her usual casual outfit, a hoodie and jeans, but she didn't have that confident air she used to carry. She spotted me and gave a small wave before walking over. "What's this about?" she asked, her arms crossed defensively. I didn't waste any time. I pulled out my phone, opened the screenshots Marissa had sent me, and handed it to her. "Read this," I said flatly. Emma looked at me, confused, but took the phone and started scrolling. At first, her expression was neutral, but as she read, her face changed. Her eyes widened, her mouth fell open, and by the time she reached the last message, she looked pale. She handed the phone back to me with shaking hands. "She lied," she whispered, almost to herself. "Yeah," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "She lied about everything. She made up the story about me cheating just to break us up. And apparently she thought it was hilarious." Emma sat down on the bench next to me, staring at the ground. I didn't know," she said softly. "I didn't think she'd ever—" "You didn't think she'd ever lie to you?" I interrupted, my voice sharper than I intended. "That's the problem, Emma. You didn't think. You didn't even stop to question it. You just believed her and threw me under the bus." She flinched at my words, but didn't say anything. "Do you know how humiliating it's been?" I continued. "My friends, my family, hell, even my coworkers started looking at me like I was some kind of dirtbag. All because you couldn't take 2 seconds to ask me what really happened." Tears started welling up in her eyes. "I thought I was doing the right thing," she said. "Stacy's been my best friend for years. I trusted her." "Yeah, well, that trust just cost you your marriage," I said bluntly. Emma looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice cracking. "I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know." "That's the problem, Emma," I said, my tone softening but still firm. "You didn't know because you didn't even give me a chance. You trusted her more than you trusted me, and that says a lot about how you saw this relationship." We sat there in silence for a few minutes, the weight of everything hanging in the air. Finally, Emma spoke again. "I'll cut her off," she said quietly. "I'll never talk to her again. We can fix this. We can go to counseling, figure things out. I'll do whatever it takes." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. Part of me wanted to believe her, but the truth was, the damage had already been done. She'd chosen Stacy over me without a second thought. "I don't think we can fix this," I said finally. "It's not just about what Stacy did. It's about how easily you believed her, how little trust you had in me. That's not something we can just work through." Emma started crying harder. "I was stupid," she said between sobs. "I should have talked to you. I should have trusted you. Please, just give me one more chance." I shook my head. "I'm sorry, Emma, but I can't. This isn't just about forgiveness. It's about trust. And once that's gone, it's almost impossible to get back." She kept crying, and for a moment, I almost felt bad for her. Almost. But then I remembered all the nights I spent alone, wondering what I could have done differently. All the friends who ghosted me because they believed Stacy's lies. All the times I questioned my own worth because of how easily Emma discarded me. And just like that, my sympathy disappeared. "I think it's best if we both move on," I said, standing up. "I wish things could have been different, but this is where we are now." Emma didn't try to stop me. She just sat there, crying into her hands as I walked away. I didn't look back. For the first time in months, I felt like I was finally in control of my life again. Later that night, Emma sent me a long text apologizing again and begging me to reconsider. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. Stacy's lie might have been the catalyst, but Emma's lack of trust was the real reason our marriage fell apart. And at this point, I wasn't interested in trying to fix something that had already been broken beyond repair. Instead, I forwarded the screenshots to a few of the mutual friends who'd ghosted me. I didn't add any commentary. I just let the texts speak for themselves. Within hours, my phone started blowing up with apologies and messages of support. "Wow, I can't believe Stacy would do that," one friend wrote. "I'm so sorry for doubting you. You didn't deserve this," another said. "Let me know if there's anything I can do." It was nice to have some validation, but I wasn't interested in rekindling those friendships. If they'd been so quick to believe the worst about me, they weren't people I wanted in my life anymore. As for Stacy, I didn't bother confronting her. What would be the point? She'd already shown who she was, and I wasn't about to give her the satisfaction of knowing how much damage she'd caused. A few days after that, I started hearing things from mutual friends. Even though I'd cut most of them off, A couple still felt the need to keep me updated, probably out of guilt for siding with Stacy in the first place. One friend, Sarah, called me up and said, "You're not going to believe this, but Stacy's basically been blacklisted from our group. Apparently, once word got out about what she'd done, everyone started distancing themselves from her." Marissa had shared the screenshots with a few other people, and from there, the story spread like wildfire. Stacy tried to defend herself, saying she was just looking out for Emma and that I was controlling and toxic, but no one was buying it anymore. "She's completely spiraling," Sarah said, laughing. "She's been posting these long rants on social media about how everyone's turned against her and how she's the real victim." Curious, I checked Stacy's profiles for myself, using an incognito account, of course. Sure enough, there were multiple posts about how fake friends had abandoned her and how she'd only tried to help. One post even said, "I guess people can't handle the truth. I stood up for Emma when no one else would, and now I'm the bad guy. Pathetic." The comments weren't exactly sympathetic. Most people were calling her out, saying things like, "You didn't help anyone. You ruined a marriage." And, "This is what happens when you manipulate people." One person straight up wrote, "Maybe take a good hard look at yourself before blaming everyone else." It was satisfying to see her finally get what was coming to her. Meanwhile, Emma's life wasn't looking much better. She moved back in with her parents after everything went down, and from what I heard, things were tense. Her mom, who had always been a bit of a skeptic when it came to Stacy, was livid when she found out the truth. A mutual friend told me about a particularly heated argument Emma had with her mom. Apparently, her mom said, "You threw away a good man for a liar. How could you be so stupid?" Harsh, but honestly, she wasn't wrong. Emma was struggling to rebuild her life, but it wasn't going well. Her attempts to reconnect with some of our old friends were met with mixed reaction. While a few people were willing to forgive her, most weren't. They'd seen how easily she'd turned on me, and they didn't want to risk being in the same position. "She looks miserable," Sarah told me during one of our rare conversations. "Like she's trying to put on a brave face, but it's obvious she regrets everything." A few weeks later, Stacy lost her job. Marissa, who still worked with her, sent me a quick message. "Just thought you'd want to know. Stacy got fired today." Turns out, Stacy's reputation had started catching up with her at work. People found out about what she'd done, and her coworkers started avoiding her. She'd always been the type to stir up drama in the office. But after this, no one wanted to deal with her anymore. Eventually, her boss caught wind of the tension and let her go, citing interpersonal issues as the reason. I'd like to say I felt bad for her, but I didn't. She'd spent years manipulating people and causing chaos, and now she was finally facing the consequences. As for me, life kept getting better. One day, months after everything had gone down, I ran into Marissa at a coffee shop. We ended up chatting for a bit, and she filled me in on the latest gossip. "Emma reached out to Stacy a few weeks ago," she said, rolling her eyes. "Can you believe that?" "What happened?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Well, Emma tried to apologize, saying she wanted to move past everything," Marissa explained. "But Stacy just laughed in her face. She told Emma she was pathetic for even trying, and that she was better off without her." I shook my head, a mix of amusement and disbelief. "Figures. Stacy doesn't know how to take responsibility for anything." Marissa smirked. "Yeah, well, they're both getting what they deserve." Looking back, I can't say I'm glad everything happened the way it did, but I am grateful for where I ended up. Stacy and Emma's toxic dynamic was a ticking time bomb, and I just happened to be the collateral damage. But in the end, they destroyed each other, and I got to walk away with a clean slate. It's funny how life works sometimes. Karma doesn't always come immediately, but when it does, it hits hard. Emma and Stacy learned that the hard way, and honestly, I'm okay with that. They made their choices, and now they're living with the consequences. As for me, I'm moving forward. I've built a life that makes me happy, surrounded by people who truly care about me, and that's the best revenge I could have asked for.